under the starry sky of a small coastal town where the sea whispered secrets to the shore, two hearts found solace in each other's embrace. Suikoden, a beloved JRPG with an unforgettable story, and Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen, a tactical RPG with real-time war battles. It was that night at that moonlight beach where the stars shined just for them. This is where the magic happened. This is where Unicorn Overlord was born. Well, I'm sure it happened something like that. The more accurate version is that it was developed by Japanese indie studio Vanillaware, who only a few years ago created one of my favourite modern games, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. Unicorn Overlord, however, is a lot different. As I mentioned before, it feels like the result of a steamy night between Suikoden and March of the Black Queen, and I'm all for it. This strategy RPG may have been overshadowed by other powerhouse games released around the same time, but I'll tell you now, this is not one that you should miss out on. Before we get into the review, if you liked this video, it would help me out to hit that like button and sub for more RPG content coming soon. I'd also like to thank the publishers for the review code, and all footage that you see is from the PS5 version of the game. What did you think of Unicorn Overlord? Do you plan on playing it? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, let's get into it. Unicorn Overlord follows Prince Elaine on a quest to regain the throne of Cornea, which was usurped by the evil General Velmor years prior. Throughout this journey, Elaine will travel through 5 nations where he will liberate towns and gain allies so that he can stand against the might of Velmor and his army. This is your typical political war story, except that it's incredibly simple, unengaging, and to be frank, completely Sinatra. This story is easily the worst part of an otherwise outstanding game. In fact, most of the time it feels like dozens of small mini-stories with the main antagonist popping up every once in a while to remind you that the game is actually meant to have a story. As I mentioned before, the game does have some serious Suikoden vibes in that you start off with an army small in numbers but eventually recruit dozens of allies to your cause. That and the massive war battles, but more on that later. The characters that you recruit are a bit hit and miss. None of them are particularly deep, but some of them do have some half-decent mini-stories. The others, well, I've already forgotten their names. But I did appreciate how many characters there were and that many of them are optional and missable. I didn't think I missed anyone, but after finishing the game and researching all of the characters, it turns out that I did miss quite a few. Each of the main story scenes are fully voiced with absolutely breathtaking visuals. I expected nothing less though, as Vanillaware are known for their eye candy. Unfortunately, there's no voice acting when characters are conversing on the map, and this is a shame as there is some pretty important dialogue here, not to mention loads of one-on-one rapport conversations between each of the characters. Something that I did find a little strange about the map is that the characters' appearances aren't accurately represented. For example, in all of the scenes and art, Elaine has blue hair and Lex has red hair, but the character models on the map don't display this. I'm not sure why they made this design choice. Fortunately, everything else about the map exploration is pretty damn good. As you travel around each of the 5 regions, you'll be able to converse with NPCs, liberate towns held by the enemy, collect and deliver items to upgrade each town, take on side quests, and find loads of secret areas and items hidden around the place. The game also presents a great sense of freedom in where to proceed and what order to complete each quest. At one point, you can even choose which country to liberate next, and at another time, you can even take a boat to another country far earlier than you meant to. In fact, you can actually take on the final area very early in the game. Of course, you will get destroyed, but it's pretty cool that you have the option to try. It kinda reminds me of Chrono Trigger, where you can take on Lavos anytime you want. For a strategy-based RPG, I really love how this world map works, and its exploration feels like a natural match to the core gameplay. If you've played Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen, you'll feel right at home here. Essentially, you'll need to dispatch your units, which are made up of 3 to 5 characters, defeat enemy units, and eventually capture their main base. The map movement works in real time, where you select a unit and tell it where to go or who to encounter in battle. The character classes that make up each unit is one of the biggest factors that you'll need to consider when choosing who to encounter. For example, flying characters are weak against arrows and armored classes are weak against magic. For this reason, you should have a range of different units to cater to different enemy types. When two units run into each other, a battle will take place, except that it's probably not what you'd expect from an RPG. For one, you don't control your character's actions in battle. All unit actions will be preset, so you'll simply watch the battle unfold. Secondly, only a single round will take place, so if an entire unit is not defeated, they'll still be alive but wounded on the map. Something interesting about this combat is that you will know the exact outcome of every battle. Yes, characters can miss and criticals will happen, but you'll know these results prior and you'll need to use this information when deciding who to engage. There are no surprises. Sometimes, however, your unit may take a load of damage and lose, but if you encounter the same enemy later, your unit may come out on top. It's all about the RNG. This can be a bit strange at times, particularly with the magic and arrow assists which allow nearby ranged units to jump in with the first attack. However, a lot of the time, this completely changes the outcome of the battle for the worst since it re-rolls the RNG. I mean, you can see the results of the battle with and without the assist, but it is strange that firing arrows into the heads of your enemies helps them out and not you. As I said, each battle is one round. How many times each character can act depends on their AP, which is required for active skills, and their PP required for their passive skills. Since you always know what's going to happen, watching the battles unfold is just a formality. I reached a point of the game where I skipped watching almost every encounter, as watching them can be a bit repetitive. The only time that I did watch them was when I wanted to see firsthand how things worked and if any of my setups needed tinkering with. In addition to the battles, there are other map-related factors to consider, including terrain, watchtowers, and garrison points. Valor points also need to be managed, as they're required to dispatch units and unleash map abilities such as raining down smoke arrows to prevent enemy assists. In terms of difficulty, Unicorn Overlord is easy at its default setting. I almost immediately changed it to Expert, which is the hardest of the four, and this worked well for me. I did as much optional content as I could, and most of the time, I still had to think about my every move. The most challenging aspects for me was meeting the time limits for each stage. Honestly, I was not a fan of this, as at times you're not given enough time to complete a mission, and it felt like steamrolling right through to the end was the only option. Then there's the boss fights. These can be brutal, with a couple of bosses, including the final boss, being stupidly difficult and feeling very unfair. I really would have liked some more balance here. The real strategy comes into play with the unit management. There is so much you can do to customize your characters and your units. Every time I recruited a new character, found a new piece of equipment, or learnt a new ability, I could not wait to jump right into the menus to tinker some more. I seriously can't remember the last time I've spent so long in menus, and I loved every second of it. When all the stars align and you create a unit that starts to dominate on the battlefield, it feels so good, and sometimes even the tiniest of changes can make a big impact. A huge part of this is setting up your character's skills. If I could compare this system to any other, it would be the gambits from Final Fantasy XII. Each character has 8 slots that can be filled with abilities and the conditions that need to be met for use. For example, if certain attacks are stronger against cavalry, you could make it so that a move would only be activated when cavalry enemies are present. The fact that you have so much control here absolutely makes up for the lack of control during battle. Something that I wasn't a fan of though was that some of the moves take up multiple AP and PP points. These are meant to be the strongest skills learnt later in the game, but most of the time using a basic single AP move multiple times led to way more total damage output. A major part of the character progression comes from ranking up through earning renown, which is done through completing quests and liberating towns. When you do rank up, you'll unlock significant progression capabilities such as increasing the possible characters allowed in each unit and promoting characters to the next class. I do wish there was more to the class system though, as each character only has one possible class to upgrade to. Unicorn Overlord was not the type of game I expected from Vanillaware, but I am so glad that that is what we got. In true Vanillaware fashion, the art style and the visuals are gorgeous, but it's the tactical combat that really makes this game a must play. Sending all of my units around the map, capturing checkpoints and defeating enemy units was always a blast. The large variety in characters, classes, equipment and abilities makes managing your army a load of fun. Making a change and seeing how it played out was so rewarding. There is also a load to do, with no shortage of characters to recruit, towns to liberate and equipment to find. Unicorn Overlord will keep you busy for hours. In an otherwise brilliant game, the story is easily the weakest part. It is something we've all heard before with very few surprises. My other issue was the crazy difficulty spikes later in the game. Some of the bosses and the time limits were completely unreasonable. Unicorn Overlord was totally my jam, and if you're into highly strategic RPGs with a load of management and very rewarding gameplay, this is the game for you. What did you think of Unicorn Overlord? Do you agree with what I said? Let me know in the comments below. This was Hellfire RPGs. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, it would help me out a lot to hit that like button and sub for more RPG content coming soon. See you next time.